Hey guys, how's it going? It's Dan Weinberger here, CEO of Morpheus.Network. Another special video today, of course. Big guest. This gentleman and I have been talking for such a long time. We've dealt with a lot of different issues, along with the community as well. So I'm super happy to talk to him in front of all you guys for the first time. Grant, welcome. He's our head legal advisor. Grant, hello. How are you, sir?
Hey, Dan. How's it going? Yeah, we've been together, since December of 2017, right?
Yes. It seems longer. I don't know. Is that
yeah. I don't know. It's good, though, man. It's good. That's a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, anything about yourself you want to tell the community as well?
Thanks, Dan. I'm a U.S.-based attorney. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Illinois. I've been practicing for a little over 15 years, a total of probably 20 years of legal experience. I graduated from law school and passed the bar in 1998. I've worked in a lot of different areas, IT, intellectual property. I worked in a civil and commercial litigation law firm for about 10 years, doing the standard associate up to partner track. And after that, I went out on my own, started my own firm, focused more on intellectual property and really some of the areas that I was more interested in. In 2013, that's when I started getting involved in cryptocurrency and blockchain, sort of as a novice investor with Bitcoin. And then sort of just gradually since then, got more and more involved, especially end of 2016, beginning of 2017, when I saw what was happening with blockchain as a technology, especially with Ethereum. Got more and more interested, and then decided that I was going to try to practice it. And given my background, I mean, I had already checked a lot of the boxes as far as what you would want to see in an attorney who practices in the area of, I guess you can call it cryptocurrency law, even though there's no official designation that I'm aware of. Just started doing that and pretty much been working on that ever since.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned it's been good for you. It's been excellent for us as well. So thank you for we've gone through a lot of different things over this past over a year or so. So yeah, it's been wonderful in general.
The most rewarding thing of this job for me is the clients I get to work with, and you guys are pretty much at the top of the list as far as that's concerned. So you guys have been great to work with, and I'm proud of the work that we've done together, getting to this point, because you guys have been doing everything the right way. And I see that not being the case in many other circumstances. So congratulations to you. And I think it's important that your community knows that.
Thank you. That's honestly what we're trying to do. We want to make this work, but it has to work in the right way. And if it's working in the wrong way, it's not really working, right? So,
right.
Anyhow, so the reason I want to talk to you today was it's a more specific topic. We had a video. I know you're a very busy man, so you don't watch necessarily all our videos, but I had a conversation with Vignesh, the blockchain evangelist himself, and we discussed some different technologies of layering, and he brushed upon which the community picked up on right away, of course. The technology we're using for Masternodes. So I wanted to bring you on as our head legal advisor. And just want to ask you, first of all, in general, how do Masternodes work?
I did actually see that video, and I went ahead and prepared some visual aids for this. I've actually been doing research on Masternodes for a couple months now, in part related to this project, but also some independent research, because I do believe that they have the potential to run afoul of the securities laws in particular. So I think it really is important that we understand them and that we don't just set them up willy-nilly without any sort of preparation planning. Can you see the slide on the screen now?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So as far as what is a masternode, in the simplest way possible to describe it, it's basically a software program or a service that's running on a computer like a server, and it's attached to a network. In this case, a decentralized blockchain network like Morpheus.Network, for example, and it performs specific services to help the network run more efficiently. Those services can vary. It can be anything from keeping a full copy of the blockchain on the computer itself. If you're familiar with how full nodes in Bitcoin work, on the Bitcoin network, for example, every full node contains a complete copy of the blockchain. That's how it's distributed and decentralized, and the full nodes in that case perform the validation of the blocks. So that's one of the things that Masternodes can do. They basically do a lot of the same stuff that full nodes would do on the Bitcoin network, but they also do other services, especially when you start talking about heavy transactional services where you have lots of transactions happening at the same time. It's essential to have masternodes or something similar to them that are on the network that are performing those services. Now, what are the requirements to run a masternode? Whereas in something like Bitcoin, where you've got mining and you use the proof of work consensus, masternodes typically utilize something else. And in the case of Dash, it was proof of service. That's what they use. And the way that works is anyone who operates a masternode, they're required to deposit a certain number of tokens in a wallet. And that wallet has to be viewable to the network at all times. Once that's validated, that the minimum number of tokens are in the wallet, then the masternode is considered to be in service, and then it can provide the resources that are needed to make the network more efficient, whatever system or whatever services are necessary for it to keep the network running smoothly. If the balance of the wallet ever falls below the minimum, though, or the wallet is no longer viewable on the network, then actually the masternode is taken offline, and it's not allowed to perform the services. Also, it's necessary for the masternode operators to ensure that the hardware meets minimum specifications, and also that the software is up to date, the masternode software. And if they fail to do that, once again, the masternode can be taken offline for not being properly maintained. So that's basically, in a nutshell, just how they work. That was very, very simplified, but I was hoping to just sort of give a general overview for those people who knew nothing about them, just as a starting point. Now, all of this is not, when I was talking about users or operators, this thing isn't done, it's not expected that people are doing all of this voluntarily, because it uses an incentive mechanism the same way that for it, like in Bitcoin, where proof of work, the incentive is the block rewards for mining the blocks, and the miners get those. The rewards in most masternode systems, including Dash, is a sort of a regular percentage. In the case of Dash, it's of the block rewards, but there are other ways you can structure that so that there's a percentage of some kind of passive income that's coming in.
Oh, interesting. Is it possible to give us, just to illustrate that point a little further, a specific example, of block rewards, whether it's Dash or however you want to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'd be happy to do that. In the case of Dash, the nice thing about Dash, other reason I come back to it all the time is because the data is probably the most substantive as far as you can verify everything online. So what I did is I took a look at some of the rewards that they had been paying out previously. I think it was like a couple of days ago when I actually did this, when I did the analysis. The way Dash works, they require that you have 1,000 Dash stored in that wallet I was telling you about. At the time, they were worth, the price was $93 for every Dash. So the cost to actually operate a masternode, as far as the amount of money or value that you would have to put into that wallet, would be 93,000 USD. They would get approximately 83 Dash. No, sorry, that's not. I apologize. Let me rephrase that. The amount of return on investment that they get, the percentage that they would receive with that 93,000 is $7,740. So that works out to a return on investment about 8%. So again, if anyone were to set up a masternode now on the Dash network, it would cost approximately $93,000. Each year they would earn $7,700. Again, approximately, that's assuming the price didn't change and the number of masternodes didn't change. And the return on investment at the end of that time period would be 8%. So, and actually at any level, regardless of what the price is of Dash, the return on investment typically ranges somewhere between 7.5 and 10%, I believe. When they first started, I think it was closer to 10, but it varies between 7.5 and 10 regardless. However, what's interesting, though, that I found is that at Dash's highest level, again, you still need 1,000 Dash to be put in the wallet. The price was $1,400. And so basically it would cost $1.4 million to operate a masternode back then at the highest point. If you wanted to get in on Masternodes on Dash at the high, when it was the all-time high, it would cost close to $1.5 million to do that. But the annual return on that would be $108,000. So again, I guess if you were lucky enough to get in when the price was much lower, you'd be looking at returns probably 700% or more, probably even more. But again, this is just the way Dash works, and this is just an example of how of how those things are structured. So,
yeah, talking, it gets me excited hearing all this, information. It's awesome information, and I wanted to ask you actually just about, you mentioned returns and talking percentages and figures. Any like legal concerns when it comes to securities, talking about returns in this sort of situation specifically? Yeah,
absolutely. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with the Howey test. I think most people in the space probably are. It's based on a U.S. Supreme Court case. I'm not going to go into any of the details, but what it says is that when you're trying to figure out a security, what is a security, and it's not something that's commonly known like stock or notes or anything like that, then you use a specific formula. You're trying to determine whether it's something called an investment contract, because an investment contract under the statute is a security. And the test that they came up with, the U.S. Supreme Court, was an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits to come solely from the efforts of others, or an expectation of profits to come from the efforts of others. And when you apply that formula to masternodes, depending on how the masternodes are set up, it can actually trigger that. And just to step through it real quick, you've got an investment of money, which is putting the tokens in the wallet. That would automatically qualify as investment of money. So you've already got that first prong is already, it would be a yes. In a common enterprise, let me set that aside for a second because that sort of ties into the last prong also to come from the efforts of others. But the third prong is whether you have an expectation of profits. And in this case, again, that's why people are doing it, because they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing these masternodes because they want passive income. So you do have an investment of money. You clearly have an expectation of profits. So then the only question is it a common enterprise, and are you expecting the efforts of other people as opposed to yourself or specific groups of people to be generating that profit? And in some instances, there are several masternode configurations I've seen where it's basically everyone just sort of pools their money together to get a masternode. And when that happens, I don't think you can avoid the fact that it would be considered a security. I think it clearly is. The SEC and the regulators haven't gotten around to identifying them as such, but if they determine that they want to, I think it's pretty obvious that that's what it is. So it's important then that we structure it in a way where the Howey test is not, you don't answer a yes to that word. It's not a security. You don't want it to be an investment contract. And I think the way to ensure that is that the operators of the masternodes have to be actively involved in the configuration, maintenance, and updating of the masternodes. They actually have to be actively involved in the service, because then they become part of the determining factor as to whether or not they receive those rewards. Because like I said, like as I was showing, if you don't keep the amount of tokens in the wallet, but more importantly, if you don't keep the system updated, then in that case, you'll be taken offline and you won't get your rewards. And so it really is in that sort of a structure, again, the way Dash has it set up, for example, I don't think that for self-operated nodes or master nodes that it would trigger the securities laws. That's my feeling on it. So it's important that we make sure that we do it in a way, not exactly the same as Dash necessarily, but we do it in a way that avoids the security problems.
So yeah, the way my mind thinks about how it's going to work, obviously it's about those the network security, and when we're processing a ton of transactions, it's actually the network that relies on these nodes. So in that scenario, you would agree that this that scenario, setting up master nodes in order to maintain the network and make sure the network's running efficiently with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of transactions. Then in that case, masternodes would definitely be a non-flag, I guess you could say, for the SEC or security regulators.
Yes, I do think that in that particular case, not necessarily for the reasons you said, but if Masternodes, if they were not required, this is another problem I've seen with other networks that are using Masternodes. They basically just set them up. They don't actually really do anything constructive. There's some that actually have people staking tokens to Masternodes before the services are even up and running, just so they have them. And in that case, but they're still generating returns even though they're not doing anything. So in those circumstances, I don't see how you could possibly argue that it was not a security. So, but in this particular case, from what I understand, from what Vignesh was talking about, because I did watch that video, he and talked to him about it. Excuse me. I think it is in that circumstance. I mean, there's no question that Masternodes have to be used for the way. If Morpheus.Network achieves its goal and becomes, the key platform for doing transactions for supply chain, then you're going to have millions of transactions going through it. And the only possible way to maintain that and keep the network up and running is to use something like Masternodes. So it totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Amazing. Grant, for right now, I think you've answered all my questions, and cool. I want to thank you so much for taking us through that and taking the time today. Anything else you want to add at all right now, or anything else you want to say?
I mean, not really. I'm not in. I don't think I'm in your Telegram group, but I'll go ahead and drop my email. So you can leave it in the YouTube. I guess in the comments or whatever. So if anyone in your network has questions that they want to specifically ask me, I'm happy to do my best to answer them. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Really appreciate that. And everybody who's watching, as usual, thank you so much for tuning in. And you can send Grant questions, send me questions, send anyone on the team questions, of course. And as usual, everybody, have a great day.